Hello, hello, hello. We are gonna get right into it. It is Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m., and it is our weekly Facebook Live. Welcome to all of you. Tonight we're going to begin a two-part process or a two-week message that's gonna help those of you that I've been talking to and working with, as well as the rest of you. And as I've said many times, I don't really prepare messages. I just kind of take an overwhelming look at the majority of conversations that I have during the course of the week. And what I have come to realize is that as the holiday season approaches, and you can see the Christmas tree in my background, so many people feel this sense of anxiety or desperation or depression, but just an overwhelming feeling of helplessness. So what we're going to talk about tonight is how you can basically take that control back. And I'm going to try to debunk some of the confusion and bring some clarity to things that many people have, we'll just say, misunderstood. So again, tonight we're going to make it part one, and next Wednesday we'll do part two. But many of you have expressed either knowledge of or experience with or frustration with the so-called law of attraction or the concept of manifesting the things that you want in your life. And while I'll say to you there are lots of people that talk about it and promote it and preach it and teach it, I don't know that every one of them does a good job of making it understandable for the average person. So I'm going to try to debunk it and share at least what worked for me, because I'll be the first one to tell you that I struggled for a long time to understand the concept of creating, conscious creation, and basically creating our own reality. I've always been a proponent in my background in business of the concept of act as if, and that's kind of a very basic way to state it. Act as if simply means, how would you behave? What would you think? What would you say? And how would you act if you already had the things that you right now perceive to be preventing you from being happy or preventing you from having the success that you want to have? Other people call it fake it till you make it. I'm not a fan of that because I think it promotes unhealthy behavior. I don't ever subscribe to faking something or misleading or giving people a false appearance. But act as if is internal. It's in your mind. So if you were going to act as if you were already successful, or act as if you were already in good shape physically, or act as if you already had whatever it is that you would like or that you talk about wanting in your life, that's the beginning stages of the conscious creation or the manifesting, acting as if. Now, in a baseline, we can use the concept of our thoughts become our words, and our words become our actions, and our actions become our daily habits, and our habits create our reality. But again, it seems a bit too simplistic. And what I will say is, for most people, myself included, it's a difficult tug of war between the mind and the heart. And I think that's a challenge that many people, if we're aware, we deal with. So I'm going to try to break this down a little bit more. And I took a couple notes. I don't usually use notes, but I want to make sure that I say this specifically, and then I'll go into the examples. But the idea is, we as a society have been programmed, and therefore many people live with this mindset of, when I have, and then fill in the blank, when I have whatever it is that I want, then I'll be able to do, or then I'll be able to be. So the mistake or the challenge for so many people is the mindset of, I will have, and then once I have, I can do or be. So if we flip that over and we say, okay, what if we reversed it and said right now, through conscious creation, I will feel this. And if I feel this, I will then be able to have and do and be what I want. So it begins with a feeling. It begins with a feeling. So that's the mental trick that we have to play on our mind. Our unconscious desires have to supersede the conscious reality. So what does it mean to feel? And this is where I've got the notes that hopefully will break it down and put it into a mindset that's understandable and digestible. So when we talk about feelings, that's for those of you that are aware and buy into the vibrational frequencies, that all comes from our feelings. And our feelings basically originate in our heart and in our mind. And for those of you that have done the research, you know what I'm about to say is true. For those of you that haven't, I encourage you to do so. But they did quantify the energetic release of a mind versus a heart. And the heart emanates out 500 times more energy than the mind does. So while the mind is powerful, the heart is 500 times more powerful energetically as far as releasing that vibrational frequency. So you really need to feel in your heart as much as you think in your mind. But if you can get the two of them on the same page, that's when you become unstoppable and you can basically achieve anything that you want. So how do we get our heart in alignment with what we want? Feeling is all about your emotions. Sounds simple, but your feelings are all based upon your emotions. Your emotions are all about what you're experiencing. I'm going to tie this together, but your emotions are all about what you're experiencing. Your experiences are tied to your future. And what I mean by that is your future is all about your current belief system. So, if you really want to tie this together, what you believe right now is based upon what you feel or believe will happen in the future. And that future that you believe in has a massive effect on your current reality, your current experience. And if your experience, as I said, dictates your emotions, and your emotions are what create your feeling and your the vibrational energy or frequency, then they are all interconnected in a linear way, and we do have more control over it than we honestly believe. So let's talk about how we do this unconsciously. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and then I'll tie it together with a real simple and practical exercise. So when it comes to, again, all of us, and I want to be clear, I don't come off as a genius. I've struggled plenty. I've made these mistakes. But what I'm sharing with you is the process of how I got to where I am today based upon just far too much trial and error and mistakes. I want you to mentally put yourself in this example and tell me if it makes sense. If what I'm saying right now applies to you, then thumbs up. If it doesn't, I welcome your responses as well. But let's pretend that you have a job. Doesn't matter where you work, doesn't matter whether you're male or female, but you have a job, and it's a job that you've been going to for years, so you're not really excited about it, but you pretty much have a handle on how it plays out. You know your coworkers, you know your boss, and you know your environment. And all of a sudden, you find yourself in the middle of a very, very big project for the company. And there's 10 other people working on the project, and you're in there day after day, and it's frustrating because you don't feel like you're making progress. There's a lot of bickering that's going on. So I'm trying to paint a picture of a very frustrating situation where you're getting paid. It's not that you're going broke, but it's a job that's not really fulfilling you, and you're not really sure which way to go. All of a sudden, 2, 3, 4 weeks into this project, you show up at work, you get there at 8:30, and on your computer, there's a little yellow sticky note, and it says, "Be in the boss's office, 12 o'clock sharp." So you look around and you think to yourself, this is not normal. I don't get this message every day. In fact, I don't remember ever getting a note that said, be in the boss's office in his room at noon sharp. So you walk around, you ask people, do you know what this is about? They all say, nope. You go up to the receptionist, you go up to your boss's secretary, you ask, do you know what this is about? She said, no, just I was told to put the sticker on your computer and you need to be in that office 12 o'clock sharp. Now, I'm gonna pause here for a second because I want you to tell me, based upon the information I've given you so far, do you, A, have any sense of anxiety, curiosity, frustration? Is there anything going on with you emotionally that you're feeling based upon the fact that you've been going to this job forever, it's never happened before, you're in the middle of a really long, frustrating project with a bunch of people, and yet you've been singled out and asked to go into the boss's office for a private meeting at noon? I'm going to pause here for a second. Please text in anything. Any answer is good, but what emotion would you be feeling based upon what's going on? It's 8:30 in the morning. You got another 3.5 hours before this meeting. So you tell me, what are you feeling right now? Cindy says, of course you do. Vera says, what now? Great, yeah. Confused. All good answers. Anxiety, worry. And again, you don't have any specific information. All you know is you've been singled out, you need to go in there. So now let's fast forward. It's 5 minutes to noon. You grab your stuff, you go in the boss's office. He's not there, but you sit down in the chair and you're basically just waiting. All of a sudden, door shuts behind you. The boss walks in, walks around the table, sits behind his desk, and smiles at you. You don't know what's coming, but you may, and I'm being honest, I probably in this circumstance would have a sense of anxiety or concern, maybe not fear, but the bottom line is I would be experiencing some type of a feeling, but it's based on very little information. So now all of a sudden, the boss looks at you and says, I called you in here for a private meeting specifically because of the project that you're working on. And the boss point blank says to you, we got a phone call from the client and the client's going to take our offer. And they specifically singled you out and said that the only reason that they're taking this program on, the only reason that they're contracting with us and hiring us is because of you and the suggestion that you made in yesterday's meeting. So in a nutshell, the boss is now telling you, thumbs up, you did a great job. In fact, you're the only reason that this 3, 4, 5 week long frustrating project has come to a successful closure. And the corporate team wants to send you and your spouse on a 2-week vacation to Hawaii, all expenses paid. So you went from showing up at work in a very bored state or a frustrated state because you're in the middle of this project that doesn't seem like it has any end. You instantly get that little sticky note that says, be in the boss's office. So boredom and frustration immediately takes on a whole nother set of feelings and emotions, which contain anxiety, worry, concern, whatever. And then at noon, sitting in the office, all of those emotions are erased with relief, excitement, joy. You tell me, how would you feel if all of a sudden the boss gives you a pat on the back, a 2-week vacation, and bottom line is, it's all positive? How was that emotional roller coaster from bored and frustrated to anxious and worried to excited and filled with joy and more importantly, a huge sense of relief? And the reason I'm bringing this up is you went through all those emotions without anything really happening. It was the perception that you had of the circumstances. The perception that you have dictates your emotions, which dictate your feelings, which dictate the vibrational frequency, the energy that you're giving off. So when you say, oh, somebody's got really bad energy, it means internally, whether it's mentally or in their heart, they're having all kinds of anxiety, concerns, or worries. Now, that is a very simple explanation of how you can go from bored and frustrated to anxious and worried to filled with relief. And I can turn the tables just as easily, because now let's say that you're in the middle of your 2-week all expense paid vacation to Hawaii. You're there with your spouse, you're having a great time, you're enjoying life, everything's perfect, and for some ungodly known reason, you decided to check your voicemail, and when you pull up your voicemail, it's day 9 or 10 of your 14-day vacation, and it's been an amazing vacation the entire time, and when you check your messages, all of a sudden, there's 7 or 8 voicemail from your boss and a bunch of your coworkers, and the messages all say the same thing. We're screwed. The client changed their mind. The client found huge issues in our projections. The client found, and it basically just reiterates all types of negative situations that have occurred. Now, let's talk about this for a second. You're on vacation. You're in Hawaii, you're having an all expense paid, amazing trip. You still have 5 days left on this trip. There's nothing that you can do. There's nothing at all that you can do from Hawaii based upon what's already occurred down back at your job with the client. What happens to your emotions now? What happens to your emotions? You're in Hawaii, all expense paid. You still got 5 more days. You've got all kinds of exciting things planned. But because you checked your voicemail and heard that negative news, what happens to the remaining 5 days of your trip? And this is not rhetorical. I'm asking sincerely. What would you do? How would you feel? What would the experience be for those remaining 5 days on this trip? Would you be enjoying the hotel, regardless of how beautiful the suite was, regardless of how beautiful the view was, regardless of how amazing the food was, regardless of whatever you were doing? Would it have had an effect on the experience that you were having while you were there? Cindy, thank you for your honesty. Cindy says it would be a wash and I would want to leave. Terry says, I'm not sure how I would feel. Well, I'll be honest with you. Again, I probably would start to feel a sense of anxiety, of frustration, of despair. Okay, what am I going to do? Michael says, I wouldn't care, I'd live in the moment. That's truly what the answer is. And it's where I hope I would be today. But if I'm being honest, I didn't just arrive at this situation. It's something that I had to work really hard on. So I'm trying to keep myself in the mindset of an average person going through this. So if I'm being honest, all of a sudden my remaining 5 days have now been hijacked, and emotionally I've now wrecked that experience because I'm worried about what's going to happen when am I going to have a job? If I was rewarded and singled out as the person that saved this project for the client, could I also be the person who now all of a sudden I'm being blamed because it was my projections that have basically hijacked it? So the bottom line is, in this example, we have gone from a really excited, amazing state to potentially a horrible feeling, a horrible experience, again, based on the thoughts that we've created of our future. Doesn't change anything. Like Jackie is saying, I'm in Hawaii, I can't do anything for the next 5 days. So if you can remain insulated in the present moment, nothing changes. But if you allow your brain to wander into the future, that's called anxiety. If you stay stuck in the past, it's called depression. But the reality is, we have to remain present at all times. We have to remain in a very healthy, constant state. where we're not dragging our past experiences forward into today, causing us to be depressed, or allowing our brain to shoot into the future where we're now focused on something that we have no control over and we're anxious about it. So the feelings of anxiety or despair or desperation, all of those feelings can be managed if we can cut off that desire to focus on the future rather than the present tense. So that's how our feelings create everything around us, by connecting to our thoughts. Now, how do we consciously create? Again, I'm going to try to give you a very simplistic example that will help you if you're trying to figure out the law of attraction and how to manifest properly. So we must have emotion. We must be able to feel what it is that we say we're trying to create, but we also must have deliberate thoughts. So again, keeping it simple, imagine that you go into a restaurant and you want to order a meal. If you're going into a restaurant and you have a specific idea of what you'd like to eat, again, it's not right or wrong, whether you want to have a steak or you want to have fish or you want to have pasta or you want Mexican food, whatever it is that you want, when you go into the restaurant, the first thing that the waiter or the waitress is going to do is hand you a menu. And you're going to look through that menu at all the different options that you have. That's life. Life is like having that menu in your hand. Now, if the waiter or the waitress comes back after 5 or 6 minutes and says, "Can I please take your order?" and you decide that you're going to say, "I'll take a salad, I'll take some soup, I have one of these entrees, and then bring me a dessert." And I know this sounds ridiculous, but I want you to really understand this. If that was how you placed your order, first question I have for you is, what are the chances that you're going to get exactly what you want if there are 7 different salads, 5 different soups, 23 different entrees, and 16 different desserts? What are the chances that you're going to get exactly what it is that you were hoping for if you use such vague descriptions in ordering? I'll take a salad, I'd like a soup, I'd like one of those entrees, and then one of those desserts, please. You tell me, what are the chances that you're going to get what you want? Because I can pretty much guarantee you that there is no shot that you are going to get exactly what you wanted from salad, soup, entree, and dessert if you make a very simplistic, generic request like that. So instead, conscious creation is deliberately thinking about what you want and then asking for it, and then, of course, doing what you can to attain that. So when you get the menu, look at the salads, decide, do you want a Caesar salad? Do you want a chopped salad? Do you want grilled chicken and shrimp? Whatever it is, specifically order the salad that you want. Decide, do you want chicken noodle soup? Do you want a crock of French onion? Whatever. Do you want a steak? Do you want fish? Do you want pasta? Order exactly what you want. If you're going to order a steak, they're going to ask you, how would you like it cooked? So the bottom line is you have to ask for specifically what it is that you want. And then for dessert, again, don't just say, I want ice cream. Do you want chocolate? Do you want vanilla? Do you want strawberry? Whatever. Now, here's the other problem that we make. The first problem is that we're not clear enough. We're not deliberate enough. We're not specific enough with our request. But here's the other challenge. We lack patience. You have to be patient. You must be patient once you've placed your order, because here's the other challenge with the law of attraction or manifesting what it is that you want. We place our order and then we set the timer. So imagine that you're at a really nice restaurant. Imagine that it's extremely busy, and imagine that everything that you ask for, everything that you request is cooked to order. So there's not a bunch of food that's prepared sitting around waiting. So you can understand that it's going to take a little time. So let's say that you place your order and 10 minutes go by and the waiter or waitress has brought you some bread, they brought you something to drink, and at the 10-12 minute mark you get your salad. So you have your salad. 10-15 minutes later they bring you your soup. So now you're a good 30, 35, 40 minutes into this experience, and you now have grown impatient and you decide that you don't want the steak anymore. You've changed your mind. You want fish. So when the waiter or the waitress comes by to pick up the empty bowl of soup, you let them know, you know what, I've changed my mind. I don't want the prime rib anymore. I'd like grilled tuna. Now, it's a nice restaurant. They don't get upset with you, so the waiter says, no problem, I'll go change your order and I'll be back. Now, let's assume that there's nobody gets upset, the chef doesn't get upset, waiter, waitress, nothing, but your order that's been being prepared gets pushed to the side, and now your new order, your new request goes into the queue. And it's not going to be prepared right now because there's a ton of other orders in front of it. So let's say that it takes another 25 minutes before your order, your new order for the tuna, even gets to the chef. And let's say that it's going to take 15 or 20 minutes to prepare that. But in the interim, you're impatient again. So 30, 35 minutes, you wave the waitress and she comes over and you say, look, this is taking a long time. I'm going to change my mind again. I'll take a big bowl of pasta, please. I'll like spaghetti and meatballs. And again, the waitress smiles at you, says, no problem, walks back to the kitchen. Now your second request, which was 75 to 90% done, gets thrown away. And your new request goes up into the queue. And again, it's a busy restaurant. Everybody's doing their job. Takes 20 minutes for your new order. If you can follow what I'm saying, you're sitting at that table, you've been there for almost an hour and a half, and you haven't gotten your meal. What's the number one reason that you have not received your meal yet? And this is being blunt with you because this is the challenge that so many people have, myself included. Again, I never talk as if I'm saying you. I'm saying this is stuff that I used to do and I had to learn not to in order to evolve. But impatience, lack of patience, is a huge challenge for most people because we want to get things done. We feel like we're doing our part. And when it comes to waiting on other people to do their part, or worse, if you're saying, I'm doing everything I can, why isn't God listening, or why isn't the universe paying attention, or that stuff doesn't work. So the idea is, in this example, you have literally gone through the 35, 45 minutes on your first order, another 30, 35, 40 minutes on your second order. You've placed your third order. It's 15, 20, 25 minutes into that one, but you don't have anything tangible because of your lack of patience. Now, doesn't make it right or wrong. It's not an indictment. It's not a criticism. It's just an explanation that if you really want the idea of the law of attraction to work for you, if you really want the ability to consciously create the things that you want in your life, you've got to be specific. You've got to be deliberate. You've got to be patient. Specific, deliberate, patient, and you've got to feel it. You can't just talk. It can't just be lip service. You have to feel it, which again comes back to your emotions. And as I stated, we are in control of our emotions based upon our thoughts and our ability to stay present. What you're feeling right now is the result of past experiences and fears or concerns or anxiety about the future. So if you want to control your future, you have to put a hard stop on the past. You've literally got to put a brick wall up so that you've learned from your past experiences, but you're not dragging them forward. I used to say to people, your past is a lesson. Learn from it, but it's not a prison. It's not a prison sentence. Don't remain hostage to it. Learn from your mistakes. If you are in a situation where people don't forgive your mistakes, move on. It doesn't make them bad people, but if someone can't recognize that all of us make mistakes, that's how we learn. We don't learn from successes, we learn from failures, we learn from mistakes. So the bottom line is, if we're dealing with people that can't evolve with us, we're limiting ourselves. Here's the worst part. Forget other people. Most of us, myself included, are harder on ourselves than anyone else. So whether you think it's your parents or your significant other or your children or your friends or whatever that are hard on you, look in the mirror and ask yourself, are you able to forgive yourself? Are you able to say, you know what, I made a mistake, I've apologized for it, I've atoned for it, and I want to move forward? Are you holding yourself back from moving forward? Again, I only bring this up because of all the conversations that I've had over the course of the last month and a half with the experiment that I did and then with all the dialogues that followed. And I can't tell you how many people have refused to forgive themselves for their mistakes, let alone have been trying to convince people that they've learned and they've moved on. So again, if you want to create the best future for yourself, if you want to use the law of attraction and you want to go out there and create the environment or create the reality that you truly desire, you can't be dragging baggage or anchors. So that means, as I've said repeatedly, you have to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that, when I say support you, I don't mean financially. I mean, they're there both for the good times and the bad times. They're there to make sure that if you make a mistake, they'll point it out to you, but they won't condemn you for it. And if they can help you, they'll assist you. If you're not with a group of people that are doing that, then you're not doing yourself a favor. But worse than other people, if you're doing that to yourself, it's called self-sabotage. And I can't tell you how many thousands of people that I've met that are victims of self-sabotage. They might think it's other people, but it's really themselves. And it's because they're too hard on themselves. More importantly, they don't forgive and they don't move forward. They stay stuck. And the reality is this, folks, every one of us, I won't speak for you, but I'll speak for me. Every one of us makes mistakes. It's just part of life. But learning from them, not making them again, atoning for them, is exactly, how we move forward. Now, the reason I'm talking about this tonight is tomorrow we have a full moon. Now, if you've been watching my company, Social Point of View, has different clients around the country. And one of my clients here in Southwest Florida is called Earth Elements, and it's creating a community for metaphysical, spiritual, energy, healing, you name it, but everything metaphysical and spiritual. And one of my good friends is an all-sensory medium. Her name is Angela Black. You may have met her 2 weeks ago when she did the full moon meditation. And for those of you saying, I don't really understand what this is all about, if you don't follow it, no problem. For those of you that do follow it, the full moon is where you shed all of the negative attachments, all of the negative energies, all of the baggage that we carry around. You release that on it's called a full moon meditation. There's Big George, I know he enjoys that. Then on the new moon, which is 2 weeks later, and it happens to be tomorrow night, is where you set your intentions. So if you think of it in terms of a farmer, a farmer plants seeds to grow crops. Well, what happens is our thoughts are the seeds that we plant. And so beginning tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to do a Facebook Live where Angela is going to do a live new moon meditation where she's going to help people to set the intentions for manifesting the life that you want. For those of you that call it conscious creation, it's all about utilizing and harnessing the power of our minds and the feelings that come out of our heart which is the energy that we project. So I thank you for joining tonight. I hope that something I covered made sense for those of you that have been out there saying, I'm trying to understand the law of attraction. I'm trying to understand the concept of conscious creation or manifestation. And I'm the first one to tell you, I don't claim to be an expert. I don't claim to be a genius. I learned through trial and error. But I will tell you that once you do understand it, once you do get it, I promise you, it does set you free, and it allows you to be 100% comfortable with where you are right now, knowing that your thoughts and your actions and your words will move you in the direction that you want to go versus being stuck where you don't want to be, or worse, a direction that you're trying to avoid. So I look forward to seeing all of you next Wednesday at 8:30. And for those of you that like to participate, we'll be going live on my Facebook page tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. Thanks so much for being here. Good night. God bless. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.